Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I have a friend who's big into conspiracy theories, and he keeps bugging me to do, aliens and Sasquatch, Bigfoot, what's the term used? Cryptids. Okay. Now, I like a good story as well as the next guy, but I'm trying to keep this real. I don't want to do conspiracy theories. I don't want to do crazy monster stories and stuff. But he keeps bugging me, and I told him I would, so just to shut him up, here we go. Alright, we'll start with Bigfoot. Bigfoot was a term coined in I want to say in the 60s, and there was a logging camp. They had a bunch of heavy equipment there, and a lot of their stuff kept getting destroyed, and they kept finding these big tracks everywhere. Huge humanoid tracks, but they're huge, 12, 15 feet long or whatever. And we don't know if it was a hoax. We don't know what. I'm not saying it's real in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But I did a current events thing the other day where they had discovered a new species of whale off the coast of Japan. And in Vietnam, I touched on this. They found a new species of antelope that hides in the water and breathes through the top of its head. And this thing, they found it in Vietnam in the 70s, where we had just fought a war. You think somebody would have saw it. But no, they didn't. Go back a little further, I want to say it was in the 70s, early 70s. They caught a picture of a fish that somebody had caught off the coast of Africa somewhere. And it was what's called a coelacanth. And this fish was the ugliest fish, I swear. But anyway, the locals have been catching them for years. Mainstream botanists, biologists, whatever, the mainstream science had thought that this fish was extinct for 60, 65 million years, something like that. But there it is. It's right there on camera. Somebody caught one. So, when people say, well, there's no such thing as Bigfoot, well, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's real. I don't know. But discounting things is the first step in ignorance, in my opinion. When right now in mainstream archaeology, they keep finding stuff that completely shatters what they thought they knew. They've been teaching it in school for decades, and then they find something like Göbekli Tepe, which is a site, a religious site. The thing is massive. It's huge. And it pushes back the dawn of current mankind something like 5,000 years. It puts man on this earth in its current form 5,000 years earlier. Okay? There's a lot of this stuff that we don't understand. And mainstream science seems to ignore what they can't explain. They're doing it. Okay? Now again, there are some things in science that are absolute. The laws of physics are absolute. But there's a lot that people think they know that they don't really know, So when you hear a scientist say, there's no way Bigfoot could exist, remember Göbekli Tepe. It boggles the mind how scientists, and they did this other thing, here a while back, they found soft tissue inside fossils of mammoths. They had found some mammoth fossils, and inside there was some soft tissue. They were able to get DNA samples from that. Okay? That shouldn't exist. There's no way it should exist. Right? Because woolly mammoths have been extinct for how long? It shouldn't exist. But then you go back, and I was reading this years ago, and I thought it was kind of funny at the time. I'm a huge Louis L'Amour fan, and he has a book out called Jubal Sackett. Really good book. If you haven't read it, get it. It's really good. Anything by Louis L'Amour is good. But in this book, he points out that American Indians have oral histories. They keep track of their history orally. They pass down through the generations. They have memories of their ancestors hunting woolly mammoths in North America. And it wasn't that long ago. Okay? So when you hear scientists say, well, that can't happen, you know, at that point, if a scientist says it can't possibly happen, you gotta take a step back and think about that. Now, there are some things obviously that can't happen. I'm not gonna walk out the door and fly. I can't do that. I'm an old fat bald guy. I can't fly. I may have, you know, decent streamlined aerodynamics with a bald head, but other than that, it ain't happening. I'm too fat and heavy. It ain't happening. There are certain absolutes in science. However, when you have so many credible witnesses seeing things in the wilderness areas, woods, forests, things like that, that they can't explain, swamps, you know, out in the desert, because they're all over. You see stuff like that. You hear of stories like that from credible people. People have no reason to lie. They're not making any money off of it. Reporting stories like this could conceivably ruin their careers, their lives. You got to kind of take, you know, put some weight behind that. There's another man. He died recently, several years back, named Lloyd Pye. He had an interesting theory on that. We have so much of our wilderness that's unexplored, and we have so much that is unoccupied. There's plenty of places for a large biped to hide in North America. He also made a good point. All these hoaxers run around with fake feet making the footprints and stuff. A lot of these are articulated feet, which means the bones and the muscles inside, they've created a prosthetic that works exactly like a real foot. So if these people, instead of running around in the woods making hoaxes with these fake feet, take these fake feet to a company that makes prosthetics, they could be millionaires. They could make a lot of money doing that. So the other thing about Bigfoot, if it's a hoax, it is a long-running hoax. It's been around for about ancient Middle Eastern areas reported these things. We're talking 6,000 years ago. So if it's a hoax, it's a long-running hoax, and it's well preserved. Okay. When I was a kid, the very first horror movie I ever saw that really scared me, made me afraid to go outside, was The Legend of Boggy Creek. And it dealt with a creature like this, three-toed, you know. And apparently in recent times, these, according to normal stories, according to witnesses in New Mexico, they're now spotting these three-toed footprints. Okay. There's a video on YouTube, you can get it, called the Navajo Rangers, and it deals with the paranormal things that they see out in New Mexico, out in the middle of nowhere. That's a compelling video, because these guys are cops. Okay, just saying. All right, now let's get on to the second part of this video. UFOs. I work in a very remote area, and I work overnights. I see lights in the sky all the time that I cannot explain. I have tried to get photos with my cell phone and things like that, other means, and these things don't show up on my video camera. They don't show up as on my photos. So I don't know what to make of that. I'm an Air Force veteran. I like to think I'm kind of grounded. People who know me think I'm a little weird, but I know the difference between an airplane and a helicopter and something else, whatever the hell it is. There are things people see in the night sky, and in broad daylight too, by the way. There's a guy named Jaime Maussan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a Mexican journalist, and he was going to do a little fun thing, on Sunday nights. Turns out to be the biggest paranormal show as I understand it, in Mexican history. It went from a half an hour to like a 2.5 hour program on Sunday nights, and he keeps getting call-ins and people sending him all kinds of footage. This guy has some compelling stuff, okay, really compelling stuff. videos and photos of aliens on the ground, alien life forms walking around and stuff. Now, you know, again, I don't know if any of that's true, but if it's very realistic looking, and if it's not true, whoever did it did a hell of a job. You know, kudos to them if it's fake, because that's a hell of a hoax. I'm going to point out one of the biggest UFO events in history. There was an event that happened over Phoenix, Arizona. I want to say it was 1997. They call it the Phoenix Lights. You can look up information on it. Thousands of witnesses, literally thousands of witnesses reported this. This was a V-shaped craft that moved at 30 miles an hour slowly across the sky over the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. Hundreds and hundreds of people got videos and photos, and these are credible witnesses. These are doctors, lawyers, police officers, military personnel. This isn't Billy Bubba in his backyard with a 6-pack of beer, you know, cooking on a barbecue, half tanked and looks up, oh look, what's that? Oh, let's get a video of it. You know, no, these are credible people in jobs that could, reporting the story could have ruined their careers. I mean, it was ridiculous how many people saw this. Do some research and look into that. I'm not saying UFOs are real, I don't know. But that is, in my opinion, the most credible case, because you have so many witnesses, so many videos, so many photos. You have stories that the military put out that can't possibly be true about it. They call it flares or whatever. And these lights moved in unison across the night sky. They weren't, floating down like a parachute flare, or they didn't behave like flares. They behaved like a craft moving across. And people were underneath it, and they could see it pass over them, and you could see the outline of this thing as it passed over, because it blocked out the stars. I mean, it was one huge craft. Other lights left it and came back, is my understanding. Which means it's a type of an aircraft carrier. Now, you think back to that movie, The Avengers, where they had the big helicarrier, the shield helicarrier, and that's a cool looking thing. But let's look at that from a military standpoint. If that thing couldn't cloak, everybody could see it. It does. It's not jet powered, moving fast or anything. That's a big freaking target in a military situation. That thing is a target. Okay, it's got to have some significant defenses. Otherwise, a couple of missiles will bring it down easy. Cheap missiles too. It wouldn't even take a lot. Okay, you aim for those the 4 big engines, you're done. You see what I'm saying? My point is, this big craft that moved across Phoenix, Arizona, was a large singular aircraft, and other things left it and came back, like little smaller craft. So if it's an aircraft carrier and our government built it, why in God's name would you? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. In our modern technology, it doesn't make any sense. Seeing something like that flying through the sky, that's a damn target. It's a waste of billions of dollars for nothing. So, that being said, if that was real, and if it was a craft, I doubt our government did it. If they did, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of freaking money. As a military craft, it's a waste of money. If they're doing stuff just to prove they can do it, something's wrong. Okay? There are other reports from all over the world. This isn't just an American phenomenon. These are all over the world. Like I said, I want to say his name is Jaime Maussan. He's a very well-respected Mexican journalist. He's and he's a funny little dude, man. He's awesome. He's a funny dude. You can check him out some of his work. His English isn't so great, but he's funny. I like it. At any rate, the UFO phenomenon has been going on for centuries as well. There are paintings in museums and stonework in churches around the world that depict craft in the sky. What's his name? The Macedonian dude, Alexander the Great. He reported being attacked by flying shields. This is a serious thing, and I'm not saying UFOs are real or aliens are real or whatever. I'm not taking a stand on that issue. But I will say this. Again, if it's a hoax, it's been around a long time and it's well documented. Okay? Now that being said, again, I'm not saying any of this stuff is real, but do some research from credible sources. Okay? Again, we don't want to see, you know, teenagers videotaping something in the night sky. They're to me, that's not absolutely credible. But there was a movie from back in the 50s called UFO. The story of unidentified flying saucers or whatever. Anyway, just type in UFO on YouTube and you can see it. It's in black and white. They have some video, some film footage of UFOs that cannot be explained. Now, here's something to consider. Back in the 50s, they didn't have modern movie studios and computer graphics and CGI and all that stuff. They didn't have that. Look at one of those old 1950s monster movies and you can see the level of special effects that they had. And then you look at these the film footage that's in this movie UFO from the 1950s. You can see a stark difference. These things, I mean, whatever's on that film footage, if it's faked, they came from the future to fake it, because we didn't have that technology back then. There's no way to fake that. Nowadays, if you know, a kid on a laptop can, with the proper software, he can make a video of a UFO flying through his hometown and stopping above the sheriff's department and hovering and then leaving or whatever. There's a lot you can do. But in the 1950s, they didn't have any of that. They didn't have computers. They didn't have home computers. They didn't have none of that. Movie studios were very primitive. Very primitive. Okay? I'm just saying. Watch that movie. It's really good. It's an old movie. It's black and white. It's kind of it's a movie, but it's also a documentary. There's a lot of good people in it. But my point is, watch that show and you'll see. So that's my. There was a wonderful movie out. I can't remember what it was called. I want to say it was Jodie Foster. She made a good point. Mathematically, as big as the universe is, and as big as many stars are out there, and as many planets as we know are out there, mathematically, there's got to be alien life somewhere. The universe is too big for there not to be. Now, whether or not they're visiting us, I don't know. But there you go. So, that's my take on UFOs and Bigfoot. And again, I did this because my friend wouldn't stop bugging me. So there you go. All right? You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.